Hey guys, I'm here with Andrew Pardue from Nutritionals. We're starting a series called So You Want to Build Muscle. This video series is for those of you that are just starting out in the gym, or maybe you've been in the gym and you've not seen any progress. So we're going to help you go from point A, which is no gains, to point B, which is on the gains train. Andrew, tell them a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so as he mentioned, I'm with Core Nutritionals. I'm signed on earlier this year as a sales rep, and things have kind of grown. So now I kind of cover a lot of different parts of the nation. Visiting stores, doing a bunch of different stuff with Core. Also a full-time college student at the University of North Carolina, Wilmington, pursuing several degrees with that. So I'm definitely staying busy, but I do a lot of cool stuff with Core.
You're a natural bodybuilder as well, correct?
Yeah, I'm actually a natural bodybuilder, looking to compete here in the next coming year. A few shows, and so between all of that, obviously I'm staying pretty busy for sure.
A lot of people think of me as a power lifter, but I actually spent my first 20 years in love with muscle building. Andrew's been a muscle builder out of the gate. So this first video, we're going to talk about the gym, because that is a cornerstone. When guys wake up and they want to build muscle, they hit the gym first, and they make a lot of mistakes. So I'm going to share some of my thoughts, then let Andrew share some of his thoughts. So when you first hit the gym, one of the biggest mistakes guys make is they go to the gym and they do what? Too much volume.
Yeah.
I mean,
Just kill it, yeah.
they go and kill it, and what happens? The next day they wake up and they're unable to move.
Yep.
So my big thing is, for the first month, I want you to develop consistency, and I want you not to overkill the volume. Whatever type of program you're on, I'd rather see you go in and do 2 sets per muscle group, and work on developing that consistency and that routine, getting the feel for each exercise, getting the feel for the form of the exercise. You're gonna get sore. You're gonna get sore even with that minimal amount of work, but I really think it's just about developing that consistency that first month.
Yeah, I would definitely say a lot of people, like you said, a lot of people will just kill it the first, they might make it a week or so, and then all of a sudden, like you said, they're crazy sore, just burnt out already, and then they don't last that long. I would definitely say, like you say, getting used to the movements, especially if you've not squatted, deadlifted, and benched before. Just getting the form down. You should take at least a few weeks to really get the form down and get your bar paths right. If you're not getting that right in the first place, then as far as long-term gains, you're going to have a lot of trouble. Even months or years later down the road.
Right. One of the things people don't understand, and it's not talked about a lot, is when you first start at the gym, when you first start really seriously training, a lot of the initial strength progress is neuromuscular, meaning that you're improving your wiring between your brain and your muscles. So actually killing it during that time doesn't make a lot of sense from that type of a standpoint. So it makes some sense just to take time, develop that pattern, let your brain and your muscles improve their firing, their tag team effort. Now, with that said, you've developed consistency, you've eased into training, and you didn't go in the gym and do 35 sets of curls 3 times a week. What type of exercises, Andrew, do you think are best for them to start out with?
I would definitely say, and this is nothing new, but I would definitely say squat, benching, deadlifting, shoulder press, pull-ups, even push-ups, sit-ups, things like that when you're first starting out. That's really going to build your foundation for everything else. Curls and leg extensions and things like that are good, in addition to some of the other stuff, but you're going to activate the most muscle in one time with things like compound movements, deadlifts, squats, and things like that. Pretty much anyone, unless you have some kind of injury or something like that, most people will tell you those are the ones you should focus on, whether you're a power lifter, Olympic lifter, bodybuilder, or whatever. Those are going to benefit you.
It doesn't matter how much you can do on leg extensions if you can only squat 95 pounds. The advice I generally give, the advice I like to give guys, is go into the gym and do the big exercise first. Do the squats for legs, do the Romanian deadlifts or stiff leg deadlifts for the hamstrings, do the bench press or bench press variation for the chest, do the row variation for the back, do the overhead press variation for the shoulders. Once you get that hard work done, then move on to some less taxing exercises, but do the compounds first. And then if you want to play around and try some of the different assistance type exercises or backup exercises, then it's okay.
And one thing I would also add to that is, don't be afraid to do full body workouts 2 or 3 times a week. A lot of people will do things they see in the magazines. They'll be training 5 or 6 times a week, splitting up body parts. doing drop sets, rest pauses, pre-exhaustion and things like that. But those articles are there because the people that wrote them have been training for a long time, and they're at a more advanced level. But to start out doing full body workouts, you're still going to see improvements, a lot more improvements than I think you would probably guess. Don't be afraid to start out with something like that and get the basics.
You don't need a complicated program when you're starting out. I always tell people, don't worry about how some bodybuilder or some athlete trains now.
Yeah.
You don't want to mimic them now. You want to understand how they train when they made the bulk of their gains. And you don't need complexity. You don't need drop sets. You don't need supersets. You don't need rest pause work. You don't need anything fancy. You basically just need consistency, progression, and a good diet right out of the gate.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. Consistency is going to beat out a lot of the other stuff. Just pure and simple. So
now, regarding progression, this is a topic. I mean, when you walk into any commercial gym and you see the average guy lifting, he's not moving a lot of weight. And sometimes when you tend to talk progression, people take it like, well, I don't want to train like a power lifter. I just want to train for the pump. But at some point, you have to focus on progression in some form or fashion.
One thing I would mention, and this is something I've been thinking about lately, is not being afraid to slowly add weight. And when I say slowly, I mean from week to week. You might only be adding 5, maybe 10 pounds a week. I know earlier on when I started, I'm not the strongest guy in the world even now, so I tended to get impatient. So as soon as I was starting to do a weight well in a rep range, I would try to add too much, and then that would lead to all other kind of situations, and I would have to back off anyway. And since I've kind of came to my senses, I guess, and started being patient and understanding that only adding a little bit from week to week is going to add up in the long run, and especially from a safety perspective, that's a big thing too. And I would definitely have, if I could go back, that's what I would remind myself for sure.
What I tell people is I generally tell novice lifters or beginning lifters to push every set for as many reps as possible, but stop that set when their form starts to break down or when they feel like they might fail on the next rep. So I just want you to perform safe, quality reps. And with that said, what Andrew was talking about, if you went in and say you did 8 reps on the bench press with 135 pounds, if you just went in the next time and did 9 and you just added 1 rep per workout, you would progress rapidly, very rapidly over the course of 2-3 years.
Yeah, and you'll hear people say, people that have any sense, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. The people that have done really, really well in bodybuilding or just in gaining muscle in general have been doing it for a long time. It's regardless of what you do, you're not going to see results to the maximum, in just a few weeks. It's definitely a patience type thing. Yeah,
you need to learn to focus on enjoying what you're doing in the gym rather than living for results. Because if you remain consistent and you take care of your body and you slowly progress as it comes to you in the gym, the results are going to come. The results are going to come. You don't need to beat up your body. You don't need to punish your body. So people often ask me, what's the best program for beginners? And I tell them it's the one you enjoy and the one you'll stick with. Yeah. And that can be a heated topic because in this day and age, everyone's like, this program's the best, that program's the best, splits are the best, full bodies are the best. The reality is full bodies are probably better when you're just starting out. Upper lowers are a decent choice as well. But if you're going to do a split, I'd rather have you be consistent. I'd rather have you progress and train safely on a split. Whatever you're going to stick to, whatever you'll enjoy.
Yeah. One thing I would say, which might not be the most popular thing, is actually find someone that truly knows what they're doing and what a good form looks like. There's a lot of people with a personal training certification at your gym or at any gym. You'll see it all the time. They might have a certification which to someone starting out might mean a lot, but in reality, that doesn't really mean as much as you might think sometimes. I see a lot of trainers or a lot of people that should know what they're doing still give a lot of bad advice. So I would definitely do my homework and find someone that I could actually trust and that has credentials to back it up, to actually show you how to lift properly. Because if you start out learning it wrong, it's going to be even harder to change to a good form later on once you've kind of got it in your head. So starting out good is a big thing, I think.
Yeah, one of the issues with form in bodybuilding, I've been around the bodybuilding community since 1986, is that a lot of times when bodybuilders talk about form, what they're really talking about is doing a movement slow and controlled. You can do a movement slow and controlled and still be using bad form. So, you know, what Andrew was talking about here and what I'm hinting at is when somebody says good form on a YouTube video or in an article, don't assume that's good form. You have so many resources. Hit YouTube, hit articles, do your research, especially on the big lifts. What exercises do you feel are essential that a beginning trainee really brush up on their exercise form?
I would definitely say deadlifts. Squats are sometimes hard to learn at first, but deadlifts to me are, you know, probably twice as complicated. There's just so much involved. You see a lot of people, which I might do a video later on, because this is something I see all the time. People getting confused between a conventional deadlift and a Romanian deadlift and a stiff leg deadlift. Those are three completely different things, yet you see people kind of doing hybrids of them, and that's going to lead to a lot of stuff. I'm surprised more people don't get hurt in the gym. So, you know, I would definitely say deadlifts, even more so than the other lifts. You know, add weight slowly. You know, don't be impatient and really work on your form, whether that's having someone there that you trust to watch you or, you know, even videoing yourself if that's a thing you can do. You know, that's one of the main lifts I see people butcher all the time.
Yeah, the big lift, the big one that I worry about is bench press, because guys typically do the bounce in the bench press or the real heavy sets where they're not doing the reps, so their arms are flared, and they're doing everything that's completely counterproductive to building muscle and strength. So go in, do quality work, learn form, you know, get your quality reps in with none of that bouncing, learn your form, and keep your body healthy. So guys, that is the end of the first video in this series. We're going to do another video talking about diet next, and then we'll do a supplementation video after that. Just to recap in this video, if you're just starting out and you're looking to build muscle, during that first month, focus on just remaining consistent. Don't do a lot of crazy volume, okay? Do your research on exercise form, on YouTube, on articles, and focus on consistency and focus on progression of weight. Slowly adding weight as you can, letting it come to you. Don't be one of these guys that never adds weight to the bar, because if you do that, what's going to happen?
Not much of anything.
Not much of anything. You're going to be one of these guys that wakes up age 40, still doing curls in front of the mirror, still small. So guys, as always, thanks for watching. Have a great day.